Look at this. I got headphones on. I got a mic going. Baby.
If
Huh?
only people could see you now.
Hey, no video. We've gone through this before.
All right,
No
all right,
video.
all right. Welcome to This Commerce Life. This is a podcast aimed at small, medium entrepreneurs focused on commerce. I'm Phil, your host, and Kenny, your co-host, will join us as well. And we're going to talk to you about the world of retail and commerce and how things are changing in the world.
Just pretend you're talking to.
Oh,
There we go. We can say it now.
You
It
might
doesn't
have
matter.
to say yes, just so the
Okay.
I think it's
got
all
it.
that you're being
Okay.
yeah,
All right.
yeah.
We've
So we
never
just tell
seen
people to
anybody- So
Yeah.
this is our
Just-
first
First
Zoom
Zoom.
experience, as everybody has been Zooming. The whole world was Zooming, and we were
Yeah.
still doing our thing. So
That's
That's
okay.
this is
awesome.
new.
It's
Yeah,
okay.
that's okay. That's good.
And this is supposed to be
That's
very
good.
natural. Just talk. No,
Okay.
no
Yeah,
big
yeah,
deal.
Okay,
yeah.
good.
Yeah.
No
All
big
right.
deal. For anything, for more than anything, it's just we're interested to hear people's stories, especially in the industry you're in, because I just find it's been a challenge. The last couple of years has
Yeah.
been very, very,
Yeah.
very interesting.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
It's a funny one, right? Because Kenny, Glenson and Mimi have been texting me all week, right? And so even this morning, they're like, "I'm not sure if you want us on the podcast. You know, I don't know how we fit." And I think I said to them, "I'll explain it on the podcast, right?" But
Yeah.
I think the thing that we're after on this podcast that our listeners really love is just like success comes in different formats, different shapes. It's different for every single person. And I think what people in business are starting to find is there's no set formula, right? Like before, it's always like, oh, you have to do these things. You know, I actually
Mhm.
was thinking of you guys because I was thinking of the story you told me about Mr. Wong.
Yes. Oh, the one
Um,
that your father's friend.
Yeah, yeah. No,
Yes,
my
oh dear.
my buddy's father. Anyway, I'll
Yes,
tell
yes,
that in
yes.
a second. But I was thinking about that, and I was thinking, but it's not true, right? Like there really isn't a formula to success. It's
Mhm.
everybody
No.
finds their own way.
Mhm.
And I think
Everybody
like
defines
the
it
two of
differently.
us, yeah, like the two of us, we find a lot of people for that reason, right? Because we don't have a system. Like when we help people, it's not about like you must do these things. There are a handful of things that you must do,
Mhm.
you know, to make sure the dollars and cents work, right?
Mhm.
Because the
Mhm.
dollars and cents have to work, otherwise it makes
Yes.
Otherwise, there's nothing to do.
you know,
Otherwise
otherwise
you
it's
don't
just
eat.
a passion and
Yeah.
it's not a
Yes.
business, right?
Yeah.
So
Yes.
Right.
but other than that, yeah, it's you know, so that's why we wanted you on, because I think you guys are amazing and you've done such an amazing job.
Well,
So-
thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank
I
you.
wouldn't think that way, but
I think it's a lie, but thank you. I appreciate that.
No, not at all. So I'll introduce you guys to the audience.
Please.
So I have Glenson and Mimi on, and they run Celadon House, which is a at this point it's an institution of Asian fusion food, I guess, really, in the Greater Toronto area. So where I'm based, and I've known Glenson and Mimi. I don't know. It feels like 1,000 years now.
20 years. 20 years.
Is it
yeah,
20?
Almost 20
Yeah.
years.
So,
Yeah.
so
From
Kenny,
the moment
I
we landed
I met Megan when Megan was like 4.
in
I
diapers.
Think.
Yeah, she must have been a baby practically.
Yeah,
She-
she's,
she-
you
yeah.
know, and now she's
like
this
3.
smart young lady, like solving world's problems and helping data sets and like all these things. And her sister is doing some biomedical fancy
Something.
stuff.
Engineering.
Graduate, yeah, something that's going to save us from ourselves.
Yes,
really.
hopefully. Hopefully.
Yeah.
Hopefully, yes.
Give us
But
a
these two,
biomechanical arm.
but I've known these two 20 years. They have run the restaurant in all sorts of shapes and forms. They've now been through 20 years, put 2 kids through school, you know, have a thriving business and survived COVID as well. So I think wanted to get to know you guys, want the listeners to get to know you guys a little bit more, and then kind of like hear from you guys what business is like. I have a small funny story. So one of the other listeners to the show, Jeff Wong, who helped put us on Samsung Bixby, he his dad used to be this great big, we'll call him a godfather of restaurants here in Toronto. So he was here, you know, early on when there were no Chinese restaurants here whatsoever. His dad was a chef, right? So and Bill Wong kind of like founded this restaurant association, but really kind of like a non-creepy mafia for restaurants, right? Like he kind of walked around and helped people like build fundamentals when they were like cooks and didn't know anything about the business of
Right.
making restaurants. But fast forward 30 years, he's retired, lives in Oakville, and he shows up at Glenson and Mimi's store when they're first starting their restaurant.
Yes.
And,
like 2
and
weeks
kind of
into
like,
it.
right? Yeah,
Yeah,
and he
2
kind of
weeks or
like
1 week
walks
into
in
it.
and,
Well, actually, he was invited, right?
I don't know if he was invited. I don't remember what really happened. That was 20 years ago, first week when we opened, I think.
I think Joe asked
I
him to
think
come.
either Joe asked him, then Joe
Yeah.
is the chef,
The-
another
at the
head
time.
chef
Okay,
Right.
yeah.
behind the, I think he's the one behind the Walk,
Walk
with
with
Yan.
Yan.
He's the brains
Show?
Okay.
behind the Walk with Yan.
Oh,
Okay.
So
wow. Okay.
he
Yeah.
happened to be a friend of a friend that
Yeah.
got introduced to us. But anyway, so Bill Wong came, and then you can tell the rest of the story.
So, and what's really funny is at this point they don't know that I know Bill, right?
Mhm.
Because I know his son, right? That's it, right? So but Bill shows up at their door, and so these two are telling me this story about some guy shows up and he like demands to see our menu, and then he says, "You got to change the menu. This is wrong and that's wrong," and
And like, and you will never be successful. This is outright just blatantly wrong.
like
And
And
we
you're
were
thinking,
just
who
like
are
so
you?
shocked.
yeah. Well, these two, and they're just like, "What the hell? Who is this guy?" And then like I was like, "That's outrageous. Who is this guy?" And they're like, "Oh, he's some guy named Bill Wong." And I was like, "Oh, that's Jeff's dad." Okay, he's
That's
a little
funny.
outrageous, but it's
That's
very funny.
funny.
Like,
So
And
what
we were
did you?
so deflated. We
Well,
first of all, when we started, we really knew nothing. Like
Yeah, we
ignorance
were
was
just-
bliss.
So
like-
you guys came from
We came from the
Philippines.
Philippines, but we're
So the
Chinese people
Philippines.
living in the Philippines, and so we have always had like a very different kind of like Filipino food, Chinese food kind
so
of thing.
a blend between the two.
Yes,
Yeah.
two countries.
yes.
Good food already. I mean, good on their own.
I
Together,
hope so.
great.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
So it's very different from what Bill Wong would know, right?
Yeah.
So it's completely
Right.
different from Cantonese, completely different from
North American,
North America,
Chinese.
Right.
Chinese, like completely different. So our menu obviously did not reflect anything that he knew. It only reflected of what we knew and
What
that
you knew.
and what
Okay.
we thought we knew would be enough to just make a living. We did not have this like, oh, we're so passionate, we're great cooks. We wanted to do a big restaurant. We want to be the best food in the world. We did not have any of those ideals at
Yeah.
all.
Yeah.
We just want to make sure we don't go back home with nothing, or we just don't want to go back home.
You just wanna go
or
back
we
home.
want to make sure we don't go hungry.
Yeah.
Right.
We have
Yeah.
2 girls that we have to be taken care of, and we want to make sure that we are never hungry. And that was pretty much the only goal, right? To be successful. And we came through a business visa as well. We
Right.
did not come, like at the time there was the skilled visa,
It was an
investors,
entrepreneur visa, they
and
call
it
it.
was
Right.
an
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
entrepreneur.
Right.
And we
Yeah.
had to do
There,
some
there
kind
was a
of
condition
business.
on the visa that we
Right.
had to start a
Yeah.
business.
You had to
hire
start a
someone.
business to
Yeah. Yeah.
contribute.
Yeah.
Yes.
You couldn't wait to find a job. You had to create a job.
We actually
Yes.
tried to find a job at first to
Right.
see how it goes. And we thought, oh, let's just do a Tim Hortons franchise. So
Mm.
that's a business of some sort. Well, it's easier said than done. It's
Yeah.
very run very differently from where we came from, where the Glanson's family had a franchise of sorts. And that's kind of how we thought it was going to be run. So when he worked for Tim Hortons, that was so very, very different. He stayed 3 months and
Yeah.
he was like, wow,
Yeah, it's just a different,
it's nothing at all.
different
Like
feel.
back home, you have like staff and you have people and you kind of manage it. Here, you're pretty much all of it.
yeah, you're all of it. Yeah.
So
Well, labor was cheap back home, so there any shift, you probably have around 20 staff,
Right.
even on a slow hour. And here it's just let's
It's a
sell it.
different world, right?
Yeah.
So you
It's just so
immigrated to
different.
Canada 20 years ago.
yes,
Yes.
You had 2 kids at the time, right? Both girls were
yes,
Yeah.
We're
tiny,
here.
a toddler and an
That's
infant.
so
Three,
cute.
Right.
and 2, I think.
right.
Yeah,
And you moved directly to the Mississauga, Toronto,
we
GTA
directly
area,
moved to Oakville.
Oakville.
into
yeah.
Oakville. Okay.
Yes,
Okay.
and that was just by fluke. It just so
Everything,
happens.
everything was
It's-
just by chance.
So
Benson saw a house, he saw it, and he saw the listing, and there's one in Woodbridge, there's one in Oakville. I'm like, okay,
The
which
other one
one?
got sold, so okay, Oakville it is.
And then- it was just how it is.
so that's how you picked the place. That's the house available. That's where we
Yes,
live.
exactly.
And you've been there ever since.
Yes.
Yes.
Fantastic.
So it's,
Okay, that's
been a long
interesting.
time.
Wow. Wow. Yeah, it really has been a long
So I
time.
actually don't remember how I met you.
Kathy.
Kathy
Kathy
is
Kathy
the
had
friend of
friends
Stephanie.
that-
Okay.
And then because you married Kathy and you're friends with Steph, who's friends with Kathy, when we came here,
she
Your-
hooked us
yeah,
up with Kathy.
Kathy and Kathy's family,
Got
uncle and auntie was very, very welcoming and such warm. And we were like so lost with no parents. And we were just like, oh my God, it's so nice to have another
they're kinda
elder
kinda
in
like our
another
parents
foreign
here.
country.
For sure.
Because when we came here, we really knew nobody.
No,
Like,
yeah. And
like we
even
came-
Kathy's dad reminds us of her dad.
Yeah, he looks very much
Mm.
like my dad. So when we came here, there was really nothing much to rely on in the sense of like, okay, which grocery do I go to?
Mhm.
Yeah, everything was new.
What's
You have to
which
figure things
drugstore
out.
do people get things from? Like, how do you hook myself up with a doctor? Like,
Yeah,
all these things are just so
why are
foreign.
people putting out the blue boxes outside? What's that for?
That was like the biggest change for us. We're like, everybody was bringing something out. Where did they get that? I was a stay-at-home mom at that time, and I was looking out the window. What do I do with the garbage? Because where we came from, people came to get the garbage every day. The maids would bring it out,
Right.
and then we didn't really think much of it. And then here, I was wondering what was going on, and
Yeah,
then
there's a schedule
truck would come.
apparently.
And I did not even know where the blue box came from. And then there was there were so many instances where there were so many nice people just around the neighborhood who was like, oh,
Yeah, they came to
hi,
help.
how are you? This is, I
This
guess you
is
just
what
moved
you
to the
should
area and let me help you winterize. I'm like, what does winterize mean?
Yeah.
Like where we come
Well,
from,
well,
it was 38 degrees all the time,
You
So-
put a jacket on your house?
like we could not understand what winterize mean, right? Like, do we put a blanket over the roof? What does that mean? Like, we were so ignorant of what it entails to have winter. So it was just all so many nice people helping us, and we are here today because
Yep.
I would say
Met
80%
so
so many
many-
nice people.
So let me back it up a little bit. So
Mhm.
first off, I guess, why Canada?
Another thing. So when we had the kids, it was a very dark time in the Philippines. There
Right.
was a lot of kidnappings going on.
Right.
And we're starting to get really anxious about it, in the sense where at first it was just the news, and then another news today, another news there, you hear it from there, and then started getting really close to home, and it started becoming our friends, our cousins,
Oh wow. So people
from kidnapping
Yeah.
for
actually-
ransom. And sometimes people don't come back. I've had cousins who
Wow.
did not come back and paid the ransom and everything. So at that time, that's one of the reasons, like, we were fearful. It never was really safe like it is in Canada ever since I was growing up, but it started getting really bad in that sense. And I have two girls, and
Too close
if you
to
have
home.
girls, it's like a completely different story, right? So at that time we were thinking like, oh, what are we gonna do? Then my friend happened to have a neighbor that lives in Canada. She's Canadian, and she went to the Philippines to marry someone.
Well,
Who
she
happens
got
to be-
married and she had to live in the Philippines because the husband
She went with
works
the
in the
husband,
Philippines.
and
And she happened to be our neighbor.
he happened to be another family friend, and we got talking, and we became really good friends. And her children were the same age as my girls, and then we became really good friends. And she was saying, oh, you know what? Knowing you, if you moved to Canada, you would do so well. And I'm like, why? And she's like, you're so white. And I'm like, what? She's like, you are so non-typical.
That's
I
so
think-
funny.
Like, she was like, you are so white. I'm like, why would you say that? And then she's like, you are so not the typical
Asian,
Filipino Chinese
Chinese.
person that she met, like she
Right.
meets, right? So I said, like, I don't know what that means, but anyway, so she said, like, just try it out. And then they live in Woodbridge, and she said, I'm going back next year. You want to come with us? And then, just come and see. So Glenn and I thought, like, okay, let's make a trip out of it. But at the same time, we never really wanted to, because we did have a good life back home. But we said, like, okay, let's make a trip out of it. So we came, we lived with their family for about a month. And then, we came here as tourists. Obviously, being a tourist is totally different than immigrating.
Totally different.
It was so
All good-
enjoyable.
all
The
good
people
times.
were nice. My goodness, the park, the greens, everything is green and it's sunshine. The bright sunshine is nothing compared to what it is back home. Back home, even if it's bright and sunny, it's never clear. It's just hot and sunny.
Muggy.
Right.
So
Usually muggy, yeah.
that was the biggest wow. and the people were just so warm and kind that I was so flabbergasted how, and they don't know us, and we're immigrants or we're tourists, right?
Mhm.
So we felt like, wow, this is so nice. Maybe we can do this. So when we got home, we thought like, let's just apply. We probably won't get it because we know a lot of people who never got approved. So we just like, okay, let's apply. Oh, lo and behold, we got approved so fast, we didn't have time to think. We got approved within 10 months.
Seriously.
Yes. And
Oh,
all of our friends were like, what happened? And we actually had our interview done in Seattle, and the day we were leaving was 9/11. So we got
Wow.
stuck there too for about a week.
Wow.
Oh,
So
wow.
it was just a lot of things that happened, and it was like, okay, maybe we are meant to come. So we thought if we don't come now, we'll have to give up our approval. And we thought, okay, let's go. So we sold everything we owned, like everything, because we did not want to have a back door, because a back door means we will not do
Yeah.
all we can, and
Yeah.
there will always be that. So we thought, sell everything, so we will do our best, and we have nothing to go
move
back to.
forward, you can't look back anymore.
So here we are.
It's such an immigrant story, right? It's like
Yes,
our
and thank
parents
God
all
we have
did.
never regret.
That's fantastic. That's
Oh, I have more,
fantastic.
but that should be for another day. It might be a horror show. It was a struggle to come here, but it was good and it was bad, but it was also a lot of things that, we are meant to be here, and we are
Right.
very grateful to be here. And
So-
we did not regret one single day.
But you left all the family behind, or
Yes.
your mom
Well,
and
that was one
dad's?
of the regrets.
Right.
Like
So mom and
less
dads were
less
still
people to
there.
love my children, right? But
Right. Well, it does make it extended family is
yes.
kind of nice, right?
So
I
we
mean,
Yeah.
try to love them as much as we can to make up for all of that.
well, I only know one of them, and she's fantastic.
Thank
The point
you.
was,
Thank you. We appreciate
which,
that.
when I was talking to her, I mean, I'm going through this, and I think 10 or 15 minutes in, either I probably asked because I just do stupid things like that, or she volunteered, like she was 23, I think, and just graduated. I'm thinking, I figured I was talking to like a 35-year-old.
She's always an old
Like,
soul.
she's-
She's an old soul.
Yeah,
He was
yeah.
so
Articulate.
seriously, like I'm thinking,
Yeah.
who are you?
I asked her that too. She's very strong-willed and very, very
She's
grounded.
wonderful. She's a
Thank you.
very, very bright child. I mean, good on you guys,
Thank you.
because I thought, wow, this because I didn't know. Like Phil had introduced her to the company. I didn't know who she was, right? But yeah,
Thank you.
very, very, very nice.
Thank you. We're very proud parents of Megan. Thank you.
So you did an interview in Seattle.
Yes.
9/11 happened. So you weren't in you hadn't been accepted yet. So did you have
Not
to
yet.
went back home
Yes.
and then came back here?
Yes.
Mhm.
So you're almost 20 years now.
Yes.
Like
Yeah.
with
19 going 20.
We moved here 2002.
2002. Okay,
Oh.
so early. I thought.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so you come here, you end up in the house because that's what was available. That's a good one too. Why not?
Yeah.
That makes sense, right? I'm sure.
It was so practical.
Yeah, but listen, you were already in the restaurant industry. Like,
So Glenson was.
He
was
my
managing.
family has a franchise. My dad owned franchise.
okay, so
Burger
he
King.
had numerous
But-
restaurants or a few
But
restaurants.
having a franchise is different
Totally.
because everything's set up.
With
and
someone
just-
else's rules too,
Yes.
right?
Mhm.
And so when we opened our own restaurant, it's a complete new ball game. We had to figure things out.
And we're
Yeah.
still figuring it out up to
Yeah.
this day.
It's okay. You've
Like
done
every day you
well.
learn something new. Yes.
You've done well enough. And it sounds like if you're of Filipino Chinese descent,
Mhm.
Mr. Wong will show up at your door eventually, because I guess the information goes out. Hey, we have new people in town. Bill, please go see people. Yell at them and
Yes.
kind of rip apart their menu and have fun with that. But
Yes.
good, because it's nice when the community kind of sticks together and you have at least somebody out there trying to help, because it's tough, right? I mean,
Yeah,
it's a
yeah.
new country. You don't, like you said, you don't have family.
Mm.
Lucky you had a few friends kicking around,
Mhm,
but it's
mhm.
not.
Yeah,
Mhm,
yeah.
mhm.
No.
It was. It
It's
was.
not easy,
And it was the restaurant is we have a Southeast Asian cuisine
right?
menu, so it took a lot of educating.
Yeah, you could have done
customers.
it in Vancouver. Like we were already
Yes.
way ahead.
Yes,
But
yes,
Toronto
absolutely.
was
And
definitely
we are in
not there yet.
and we're in Oakville too, right? A suburb,
that's-
not even
yeah,
in
that's-
Toronto, downtown Toronto. So
Yeah,
it
Yeah.
was a lot of
took
like
a
talking
while.
about,
Yeah, took a
you know,
while to educate
talking about
customers.
what this is, what that is, like what do you
Right.
eat this with, and what is garlic rice, like what is chicken adobo, like all these things were like, why don't you have chicken fried rice and chicken
or
balls.
sweet
Chicken
and sour
balls.
chicken.
So
and
let me
chicken
ask you, so
balls.
how do you explain
What
that
is
to
chicken
people, though?
balls? I'm like, not to diss anybody else, but I have never had
I don't
chicken
know.
balls until I came to North America.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I don't know what they
I
are
had no clue,
actually.
and we actually had to go out and order
And try
one
it.
just to know what they're talking about. And I'm like, why would they like this? I don't
Yeah.
understand.
Yeah, you just don't bother. Nobody
Yes,
understands what
like, but we need to know what we don't know, right? So
right.
Yeah.
we
But-
had to
but-
go
Yeah.
experience like what other people are talking about. Like, why would I make this? And I don't even know how to make this.
But you picked your own food, so you said, okay, you know what?
Yes.
This is
We
sort of
stood
the
our
food that
ground.
I ate back home,
Mhm.
right? This was sort of family recipes, I'm assuming,
Mhm.
or things like that.
Yes,
Yeah.
So
yeah,
you decide to open up a restaurant in a pretty white area,
yes, as
Um,
white as you can get,
pretty
Yeah,
much.
very.
Yeah, I would
Yes,
say.
yes.
I didn't want to go.
and we love
yeah,
it,
All good.
and
But
we love it.
how did
So
you
long
get
as there's
people to
no Bill Wong
understand?
coming.
Well, maybe Bill actually helped a little bit. I don't know if he did or didn't, because he
did,
probably
because he
scared you into
devastated us.
thinking, right? So
Yes.
how did you explain to people like what you were doing? Like how to, because 20 years ago, to your point, in especially in those areas,
You
like you
know,
must have been the only one on the block making
we were.
Yes. Yeah.
We were. So my-
non-traditional Asian food.
Yeah.
not-
Yes.
Yeah.
Not normal white guy,
North-
you know, chow
North
mein,
American,
you know,
yes.
chop suey.
No chow mein.
No
like
chow
like
mein, yeah.
No chow
literally
mein.
in between the two, right? Because you think like at
When
that
they got Filipino
time,
food, this is a
there
little
was
different too.
yeah, there was nothing here besides like Hong Kong Cantonese sort of food, right? So if
Mhm.
you wanted like if you're Chinese or you know Chinese and you want Chinese, it's like, you know, fried noodles, fried rice, not chicken fried rice, but like really
No.
classic fried rice, right?
Right.
And then
Mhm.
on the other
Mhm.
side is, you know, spring rolls, egg rolls, you know,
Mhm.
but literally the divide is there, right? And so when these guys, they were like, well, you know, we have all these really great home cooked, you know, recipes that you know, they've done some work to like, they did some work to present it a little bit more westernized, right? In terms of
Mhm,
the
mhm,
descriptions and everything, but otherwise,
Like-
you know, and it was really, like I thought it was fantastic, right? Because fusion was just coming on the scene. They weren't quite fusion, but they were certainly branching out, right? So it was a
Mhm.
tough, like empty space for
Mhm,
the
mhm.
market they were in.
That's the part. I mean, again, like in the city we're in, we already had a
Mhm.
strong Filipino
Yeah.
community.
Mhm,
We had
mhm, mhm.
obviously it's Vancouver, so we had a
Yeah.
very
Mhm.
heavy Chinese community. We had a
Yes.
Southeast Indian community. We had
Mhm.
a lot of
Yeah,
immigrants from
it's very
Asia.
diverse.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a different city, right?
Mhm.
But I'm just, you know, so you're
a
opening
suburb.
up. You're opening up in a suburb, in a city,
Mhm.
in a metropolitan area that doesn't have a lot of Asians yet,
Mhm.
right?
Yes.
Not like
Mhm, mhm.
Vancouver did.
Yeah,
or even
we were the
Calgary
only
does.
one.
Yes. And I guess
So,
we were lucky too, because a lot of our customers at the time were willing to try.
but that's what I was going to ask you. I'm glad you brought this. So, like, who came in? Like, you're
You know what? The funny thing is, like, before we started, so the week before we started, we printed out flyers and the menu and everything else. And then my parents were here to visit and, you know, just be with the kids. So me, the girls, and my parents, like, just walked around the neighborhood and sent out the menu. Sent out the menu to people, and then we got to talk to some people in the park, some people in the door. Like, it was literally like door to door. And then we kind of got to a sense of like, okay, these people might be interested. And then they were willingly, like, you know, telling us about what they wanted and what they don't want, or not that it really changed the menu, but we kind of had an idea. But also when we started, we really did not know what we were doing. Like, to be honest, Bill was right on the spot where he said, like, you don't know what you're doing. And you know what? We really did not know what we're doing. I'm a home cook. Like, I went
Right.
to cooking school every summer of my life, but apart from that, that was home cooking. And we did not know how to scale it to restaurant level, how to make it fast, how to make it, not to say shortcut, but how to make the prep so that you can just cook something in 5 minutes, right?
well, you have to make it
So-
profitable, right? Time is
Yes,
money.
and I
Yes,
didn't even
yes,
think
yeah.
about that. I just thought I was going to put food on the table. We're not
Right.
really business people. We were
Right.
just thinking like, we got to do something, right?
Right.
It was mostly the condition of having to open a business that was looming over our head than making
Yeah,
money.
yeah,
I
yeah.
think that was our biggest thing at the beginning. Like, we need to do this at least for 6 months. And then once we get over this, then we can think of something else, how we're going to maybe work for someone.
Right.
That was never our intention to do it for 20 years. But when we started doing it, we did the menu. We thought this is good, and then the first week we started, the cook that we hired like screwed us
Oh.
over. He bought ingredients that he wanted to use using
For his
our
own menu.
account and for his own
Oh.
menu that he was gonna do the mugu gai pan and the Cantonese chow mein. He was gonna do what he wanted to do regardless of my menu. So when we found that out, and
The
then
day before we were about to open, we fired him.
we were just like, what is this? Like,
Oh,
what are you doing? And then
I
we were
didn't
telling him
know
to
that.
do
That's
what we wanted
crazy.
him to do.
Yeah.
It was insane, and we were just so
We fired him.
lost. And we didn't know what to do. And then the ingredients were sitting in the fridge, and I'm like, okay, what are we gonna do? And then we tried to find another cook, but we couldn't. And I have a friend who was in the restaurant industry who said, okay, give me a week. I have someone, but it would take him a week before he can come see you. And I think you'll like him. He was my old cook. I think you guys will get along. And this is like, basing off how he knew me for like 2 weeks and knowing this other guy for like maybe 3 years. So I said, okay, now what do we do? And then this friend said, like, I'm going to Montreal. You want to come? So you know what we did? Because we were
we
so,
don't have a cook, we can't open. So okay, let's
So
go to
my
Montreal.
mom, my dad, my kids, we just went to Montreal and had a vacation, a stressful one, but we just went because we don't know what else to do.
Yeah.
So we
Wow.
just went to visit Montreal and, like had a trip and then came back and like, okay, and then met this cook. And then the same day, the cook came. My friend who introduced me to this cook, he also introduced me to Joe. Joe is the guy I was telling you behind Walk with Yan.
Right.
And Joe is like a very respected chef in Markham, Scarborough area, and like all
Mhm.
Chinese restaurants, high-end hotel Chinese restaurants. So he came and was like, okay, tell me what you wanted to do and let's talk about it. And he was so nice. He
Yeah.
was so kind and generous with
It's
his
very
advice.
helpful.
And he taught us like,
Kind
okay,
of help us with the systems in place, the processes in place in the kitchen,
yes.
how to
And
do it, make it more efficient.
and like low wastage, no, like, if you use this part of the bell pepper, you should use this other part. Okay, this one you can do for soup. So those things that you never know
Yeah.
Right.
going into a restaurant, you just think like, oh, I need carrots, so I buy carrots, right?
Yeah.
You don't use just carrots for one thing. You need to use carrots for every other thing. So you don't just have like one thing sitting there and, molding, right? So he said like, okay, now we have to figure out another dish. Okay, how about let's come up with this. So he tried to make it simple, not really exactly change my recipe. And he also like, okay, so you're in Oakville, no chicken bones, no face, no chicken face, no chicken feet, no fish with face, fillet everything.
Nobody wants to know
I'm
what
like,
it is. They just want to say
yes,
it's fish.
like
and look,
that's
it's
the
fish.
way we have
Yeah.
to.
Yeah.
That's our
That's
biggest
funny.
compromise. Like we cannot compromise on at the time you said like, let's not compromise on the ingredients and the taste.
Right.
Maybe
The
the
presentation.
parts,
Yeah.
the presentation,
Yeah.
we have to like, we can't have like everything looking brown and like day-old food.
Right.
So, but back home, that was the thing, the longer it is in the pot, the better the taste like comes
Obviously,
together
right? That's how it works.
like a stew, right? So I said, we can't like just sell stew. We can't do that because that's not going to look appealing. So we have to kind of like change the way we make some dishes, but we stayed true to the ingredients and the
The
flavors, but we really have to use a lot of chicken breast instead of a lot of chicken thighs with the bones.
Mhm, mhm.
So that was the biggest compromise, but it took a lot of getting used to, and lo and behold, we had our menu a little bit Canadianized in that sense, in
Right.
like presentation sense. But the moment we opened, we hit the ground running. Like honestly, I was
Yeah.
so grateful because the moment we opened, we had people out the door waiting for that 4 o'clock for us to open. We were open 4 to 10, and we have been busy since the first day.
Seriously.
It's
Yes,
That's
delicious.
and we-
fantastic.
It's
We were
delicious.
overwhelmed.
We love these
We-
guys. Yeah.
We
That's
were just
awesome.
overwhelmed with the welcome and the anticipation and the eagerness and the openness of people wanting to try something new. And
Yes.
they were like, honestly, the Canadians attacked us with kindness. Like
That's
every
true.
day, every
That's
day
true.
we were just attacked with kindness, and we could not be any other thing than to reciprocate, because where we came from, like we were second-class citizens, even when we were born
Right.
there, but we were Chinese living in the Philippines. But coming to Canada, after 6 months, I told Glenson, like, you know what? This is home. Unpack our bags. This is where we will be. This is where we will die. If there's war, we are fighting for Canada.
Yeah, that's nice.
It really has been like the best thing we've ever done for my
Yes.
children and for us.
Well, that makes you happy to be Canadian. That's nice. I'm glad we
I
treated
am,
people well.
yes, and I'm
Yeah,
proud
yeah.
to call myself one.
That's
Well,
awesome.
it's true. They say the Canadians are the kindest in the world, and it's true.
Yes, and my children grew up with the kindest people in the world. I can't really complain.
Well, that's a great story.
It's true though. If you hear all the other things that people have done for us, and like strangers, like complete strangers, it's just like I don't think we've ever seen anybody even do that for their family. I'm just like overwhelmed with gratitude, and we're just so touched.
Yeah. We have met a lot of angels, so to speak, here.
Like random,
People, they're not even family, they're not even close friends, and they
like just
reach out
customers.
and help in not small ways, but like big ways. Like,
And going back to Megan, like I mean, we've raised Megan as the way we've raised her would be like, I would say a gathering of like community, like the community raised Megan, because people would come to the restaurant and give us like unsolicited advice, which we gladly took because
Mhm.
it's the Canadian way. Like we only knew how to raise our children the Asian way, which is not 100%. It's not perfect. Like it's
just
not
different.
perfect. It's very strict, conservative. There's many ways, but we have learned to be more progressive, I would say, and more liberal.
a new perspective on things.
Like very different. And I think a lot of that has been from a lot of customers saying like, oh, Mimi, don't pay for their education in university. Make sure they're responsible for this. Make sure they pay half of it. They should be invested in their education as much as you are. You can't pay for all of it and they just take that for granted. Oh, Mimi, you should let them do this. Mimi, you should do that.
Mhm.
And I'm like, what? And it took me a long time. Thank God they started telling me this when they were young, because it took me a long time to warm up to these ideas of like, oh, by 18, they should get out. By 18, they should be independent. All these things where we came from, we live with our parents forever. Even sometimes when you're married, you live with them and then your wife comes to the house or your husband lives with them. Like you all live in the same house. But now we're very, I would say, white. Or progressive, or I don't know what you would call that, but we are very happy with
more Canadian
all
than I
the
am.
advice. And we're grateful for that. And my kids are very well adjusted to being North American, if we would call that. We did not come to Canada to be Asians. We came to Canada to live a better life and a more, I would say, a more well-rounded upbringing.
Yeah.
Really, they're wonderful children. I know them
Hmm.
both. I love them both.
It's
Yeah.
more like we take the
The good and the bad.
good,
Right.
what's good here, and you incorporate it into your principles, your values.
Yeah, like Megan and I, like, and Mika and I, like we all have like such a close family that we talk about everything under the sun. Like literally nothing is off limits. And I don't have the same relationship with my parents about that. Like we have to worry about everything we have to say to them, and even saying just like, I love you to my parents, or was something that we never really did. But for Megan, it's like a normal thing. Like we do that on a daily basis. And even up to this day, my mom would tell me like, stop telling her I love you. Like, what's wrong with you? Stop telling them. You don't want them to know. I'm like, you mean you don't want, like, my children should not know that I love them?
Yeah.
Like they will abuse you. And I'm like, oh, they will abuse me regardless. But
Yeah.
it's
Yeah,
a
it's old
very,
school.
very different
So old school.
concept.
Yeah. It's
Yeah,
so old
so-
school.
Yeah, very, very old school.
But
And
that's okay.
we're
I mean,
grateful.
most immigrant families are that. It doesn't
Yes,
matter where
yes.
you come from. Most
Yeah,
most
I
immigrant
think we all have
families
the
run that way.
same. Mhm.
Yeah. That's cool.
Can I add?
Yeah.
So, like having watched the girls grow up, right? Like when we come to the restaurant and everything like that.
Mhm.
You got into this because of the kids, right? You wanted to make sure they had a good future, that you were in the
Yeah.
right place. What's next for you? Like, because along the way, you had a neighborhood restaurant, you moved to another neighborhood, opened up seating, like you've had some kind of big moves along the
Mhm.
way.
Mhm.
And then you've had pandemic obviously as well.
Mhm.
That's
Mhm.
kind of thrown, but like your girls they're big now, right? Like they're young ladies and kind of out in the world. What, like, does that change the way you look at the restaurant or what you want to do with it?
Oh,
now?
100%.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
So the pandemic definitely changed a lot of things.
Mhm.
We love 2 days off now. Like we did not know what that means. Like other people have 2 days off
Yes.
all this time, and we were just working like dogs, and we may not
Yeah.
be great with many things, and we don't have maybe the best everything, but we most definitely understand what it means to work like dogs and work hard. And we definitely did that. And we're just workaholics too. So we don't know what it means to sit idle. So that part, we've worked hard for so many years and only knew how to work hard. But now after the pandemic, I think that changes a lot of things in the
Good.
sense of perspective and time to be able to enjoy what we want. We had a house that we're paying mortgage for, but never really got to sit in my sofa. Like I barely had time to, like, I bought a beautiful couch. I had like the whole place set up, but we
You
really
hardly
use it
sat on
once
it,
a
yeah.
year for when
Did you
people
live at
come
the
over.
restaurant? Yeah, you live
Yes,
at the
because we
restaurant.
live in the
Yeah.
restaurant. I have
Yeah.
good
So just sleep
patio
here.
and you know, like all these things, and even a garden that I love and I planted by myself and but never got to really take care of. But this year we are like weed free. Like the front and the back is weed free. The grass is green. All the flowers are blooming. I had time to like prune them when it's time to prune
Yeah.
them. Like there's no leaf on the weekends. Like I blow her 3 times a week. It's like wow. Obviously that's
New.
more work, but I am very
Yeah.
happy to do it because
Yeah.
it's so very different from
Wow.
making the sauce and serving customers and washing dishes. It's just a different
Just
kind of
more
work,
time
but
for
relaxing,
yourself now.
Yeah.
right?
So-
So now this is 2 days off. We kind of don't want to give that up. And also because the lunch crowd has gone, like
Well, people are working from home now, right?
Sure.
So
Ford
there's
is a
no
big-
lunch crowd.
Ford is a big
Yeah.
client and they're going back in January. I think the announcement was going to be in January, but the last I heard is like they're going to go back in hybrid mode
Right.
and once a month. I mean, like, what does once a month mean? Which day of the month? Like, am I supposed to open for that day only and like have the whole place booked
Maybe
by
they can
Ford?
share their calendars so you
know
can
what?
Yes.
just
And
Don't
I'm
kid
sure I
yourself, they
could
may
because
do
I'm
that.
very good buddies with them. I'm sure I'll
For
just
sure.
ask them like, okay, guys,
Yeah.
tell me which day.
Tell me which
But-
day.
yeah.
But even that doesn't make sense for us. So
Yeah,
we
that's
kind of
tough.
took the lunch menu away and then just
Mhm.
came up with like, okay, let's just be open for lunch for the people who want to meet people, who have meetings, they just want to come out and have,
Social meetup, yeah.
right? So, but we are now open Tuesdays to Saturdays, but we want to keep our Mondays off and our Sundays, we always work closed for Sundays. So we're going to keep that off. And then now because the kids are grown, we don't have to worry about them. They're both self-sufficient. They're grown up. We're almost mortgage free. We kind of don't really see ourselves as like doing this for a long time. We also wanted to be able to kind of have that balance. I mean, maybe it's ungrateful to be having this thought when we survived the pandemic and we did okay, but I guess just time for ourselves. I mean, I don't want to sound ungrateful, but
Absolutely.
really it's more time to just slow down a little bit because we only knew how to run fast and faster. Now
I
we realize
think the
we can
opposite.
actually walk.
I
Oh,
think the
really?
opposite. I think
that's
the
whole point of
pandemic
coming.
is exactly that, right? Is a chance for you to stop and
Reflect.
look at
chance
and
for
look
all
at
of us to look and
what's
say
right and
what's
what's not
important.
right, right? Like both of
Yeah.
Penny and I have talked about it on this podcast.
Right.
We both appreciate, the lifestyles that we have. We're grateful for what the pandemic did for us as well,
Mhm,
right? Like,
Mhm.
Yes. It's unfortunate how we have to be grateful for something so
Yeah.
awful, but
Yeah.
the time that it allotted us, right, is very precious.
Yeah.
And we got to spend time, like Megan and her boyfriend Nate is at home, and then we got to really get close to everybody, and Mika's coming home too. Like we got to really bond so much, and like what is important in life, right? Family and friends and time. I think like we all have limited time here, and I think about it and I don't want to think like, all I did was work and not have time with the children.
Mhm.
But
And
you got all the
I-
time in the world now, and that's the
yeah, I
point.
don't have the time in the
Yeah.
world, right?
Yeah.
You
So
got time now to do what you want to do, right? So
Yes,
take
yes.
advantage of it. You
yes,
should,
and we are,
I think you
and we
should.
are, and we just opened dine-in like 2 weeks ago, 3
2
weeks ago.
yeah.
And that has been like a little bit of an anxiety causing event. We've tried to limit the table just because we're understaffed as we always are. Just not because there's not a lot of people applying. There is not a lot of people applying. That's one thing. But
Right.
also, we've always been very picky to find the right staff.
Right.
Like we have a
Yeah.
certain expectation for the people that work for us. Like our 2 cooks and then whoever's in the front, there's the 4 of us running around in the kitchen. It's a very small space that we always wanted to make sure that whoever's in there is a good person. I don't care about your skills.
Yeah, they just have to fit, I think,
know?
personality wise.
I don't care about your skills, whether you are, this or that. We can always train
Yeah.
For the
culturally
skill.
wanna fit.
But the
Yeah.
personality and the kindness and the
right.
core of a human being, their integrity, I don't think you can train for that. So if there's a bad person in the restaurant, that really ruins our mood.
Right.
That really ruins how we can go forward and do
And
what we need to do
function,
and
yeah.
function and do our jobs. Like when there was a bad cook, like I've been worrying about, okay, is the food coming out right? Is it coming up to the standards? Is that cooked? Is this not done well? Like, I have to keep worrying about that and checking everything that comes out. I don't have time for that. I need to make sure that when you're on board, we're all going forward and doing the same thing that we are all trying to do, which is be successful and do their things right. And we've had a very hard situation last year because we couldn't change staff. And that was the biggest
Yeah,
thing.
that was hard. Yeah.
That was so much more stressful and anxiety causing than the pandemic itself, because we could not change people, because we knew the habits of our cooks and they know the habits of each other, and they were all cautious and we were all cautious and we were all paranoid of getting sick. But we don't want to get somebody new where we do not know where he came from, what he
What's the
does,
background and all
who he
that.
lives
So
with.
stressful.
So we just
So
like
just to-
kept the boat going. If it's slow, then it's slow. If it's not slow, then it's not slow. But we just didn't want to rock the boat at that time. And that was hard because we did not like what was going on
Right.
in the kitchen. So that was the biggest struggle, but we got through it. We were able to change like within like 2 months ago or a month ago, we were able to change. And now we're so much more relaxed and going forward and trying to like, okay, let's open dine in. We can do this now because we got our old cook back.
Right.
And he also had to struggle because he went to other places and he's like, oh, apparently it's not greener on the other side of the fence. So yay. So now he's back and he's very happy with a better disposition. He's now very happy to be back because
Yeah.
before he was like,
used to be so grumpy.
you're so picky. You have so many expectations. But now he goes there and he's like, actually, it's fantastic here. I love it here. So we're happy about that. That was just a blessing. And now that we're here and they all get along and we're all very cautious still. So going forward, now we're just
So we
thinking,
just,
finding the right staff
focus
for the
on
front.
for the
Right.
front of the house.
And
So-
we get kids, right? Like we get kids who are 14 and they stay with us until they're 18, and they're just Fridays and Saturdays just helping us with the takeout boxes.
But then they learn the
And
system.
it's pretty much
they know
Glenson
the
and I
system.
running the whole show anyway. So we only need the kids like to, help us wash the dishes, help us serve the food, help us clean the tables. Like we've run the place like pretty much lunch, dinner, Monday to Saturday, like pretty much the two of us, except for the weekends. So, I mean, we're not young anymore. We're 50. So I don't know if I can run as fast. And I'm noticing that because when we had dine in, running to the takeout window, running to the front, getting the drinks, getting the order.
It's a
taking
fitness
the
test
call.
now.
So I'm panning a little faster and more now than I used to. So it is what it is, but I do miss the dining a lot. Like it was a huge thing. We love what we do because of the customers that we've always had.
Yeah.
And the appreciation, the support, the just the all around good vibe. When we have good customers on the floor, it's a party. Like that whole night, even
Yeah.
all the staff who've been with us knows the people and they know the staff. It's like a party. The energy is just great. But
It's like just having friends at home.
yes,
Right.
and that's pretty much always what we wanted
Right.
our restaurant to be, like to have friends, but these friends are paying, so that's even better.
Even better
So-
friends.
Yes, and they come at their will, so but they get to order what they want. So I guess it's a win-win on both sides, but it
That's
really has been
crazy.
what we miss. But we also are noticing there's a lot of really awful entitled people coming on board now, and
Right.
we're trying to not get too frustrated with that, but we are.
Like
So
Right.
it's getting-
entitled customers.
Oh, absolutely, 100%. Like
In
people
terms of
that
what
are
kind?
just
Yeah, we just
they used to be bad customers, like not great ones, but now I think they're just more, I think, bolder and more entitled and just outright blatantly rude and just want to walk all over people. And the pandemic also taught us one more thing is like, you know what, we're not going to let that happen anymore. That's just not worth it. And I don't want my new kids, my new staff to ever be subject to that. So now I'm worrying about them. Like, okay, don't go to table 3, don't go to table 1. I'll serve them all, stay back, because I don't want them to get screamed at, because these kids are 14. I don't want
Yeah.
them to get discouraged or like be traumatized by some rude person.
Right.
So now that's on my plate too, right? So I make sure that, okay, which table, don't go there. Don't even come near there. Just in case they wave you, don't even go near there, right? So now, like, we're very anxious about that. I had to take anxiety medicine because of this new dine-in thing. And I'm like not loving it.
Yeah,
And
we just find that there's more instances of
yeah, so
those kinds since the pandemic.
Well, it seems
it's like
people
before it's
lost
like
their
once
manners.
every 3 months, and now it's like once or twice a week. Like, wow, no, it's not fun. It's not fun, and it's definitely ruining our mood. And even everybody else at the back of the kitchen, they don't like that. The pandemic also taught us a lot of things. Like there would be a bill, somebody would order. I guess everybody's taking out food, and then somebody would order like, okay, let's say 5 pad thai. Guess what? Every single pad thai has a modification. Every single one. Like instead of the guy, my cook cooking 5 pad thais in one shot, he'd have to make 5 pad thais in
Right.
5 different times. So one with no tofu. Okay, one tofu, no peanuts. That's fine. That's just a garnish. The other one, oh, take out no green onions. And the other one, no red bell peppers. The other one, more bean sprouts. And the cook would just look at the bill and then like WTF. And he's like, I'm ready to quit. And we have to protect our cook's psyche too. And like we have to put at one point say, okay, we are not
We're not
allowing
gonna do
any
that
more
anymore.
changes to this extent. Like, okay, not spicy, understand. No peanuts, I understand. No garnish, no egg, fine. But the way it's getting cooked, you can't say, come on, there's like 5 bell pepper strips there. Pick it out. Like, don't be so picky to the point where you don't understand what it entails for the person making it.
Yeah.
Like we do allow many things, but this is just, wow, 5 different modifications on something that's so standard. That's just wrong, I think. I mean, I am a customer too. We go out to eat like you would not believe. Like we have a restaurant, but we love eating. We're
Oh my
foodies.
God.
And
They
we
love
would
eating
never
more
do
than we
that.
do, just so you know, Kenny.
I don't know if anybody does anymore than
Like
we do.
we would never do that. Like not because we know how it is on the other end, but it's just like if you're so picky, just stay home.
I'm the same way you are. I just don't understand.
Like
First off, they don't do that at home.
I don't know, maybe they do.
First off, half of them don't know how to cook. They don't know how to do it, so they don't do it at home. I don't understand why you would go to a restaurant and expect that they'll just do whatever you want. If you don't want to eat here, go somewhere else.
Yes, but
Like,
we can't
seriously,
say
what
that,
do I
right?
care? Well, you're going to get to the point. I think if people continue to push the way they're pushing, I think
Mhm.
it becomes much more of a thing that you can say that and say, listen, you
Yeah.
know what? I really, this is not the restaurant for you.
Yeah,
It's just
I know.
not.
We think that all the
Yeah.
time.
You know, and I think you can get to that point. The problem is today's what you got to be cautious with is that people have gotten not just even more entitled or bold, and it's just they're more bold, they're more aggressive.
Yes, yes.
Like
That's
they're
true.
going to be
Yeah.
right in
They
your
forgot to
face.
be
and-
decent people
well,
anymore.
exactly, and I just don't know what happened with that. But anyway, so
I
you
don't
guys
know,
have
I
just
think-
gone back to sitting down. I don't. I'm
Yeah,
from
just
BC,
2
so
weeks,
BC is
2, 3
different.
weeks ago.
Yeah, you guys haven't like we've been eating inside restaurants for.
I know.
I don't think we've ever really stopped to some degree.
Yes, yes.
But you
But
guys, 2 weeks only that you've been.
Yeah,
open.
2, 3 weeks. Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
And honestly, that was fine because taking out was so easy. Like, well, it's not easy, but it's so much easier because you know
It's
what?
different.
We wrap it
Right.
by, we miss the human connection, but we try to talk to people on the takeout window, and we have a takeout window. That's why we're still here, and we're very, very blessed. So it used to be an Arby's, so we had that like drive-through.
Drive-through window.
Right.
Convenient for other people, and then it's easy because they already know what they want. They just have to drive through. They can be in their pajamas, in their sweats, in whatever, and
just pick up the food.
life is good.
So
So
you did a good business on takeout.
yes,
So
yes,
you
yes,
didn't
and
do
we still
Uber,
do.
Yeah.
You didn't
And
do
we still do.
delivery and stuff. It was
No
just-
delivery. We could not handle
don't
it.
deliver, yeah.
We could not handle delivery. We have
So
never
people
Uber Eats, no
actually
skip the dishes,
drove-
nothing.
I said I
Yes.
thought it was
Yeah.
just Phil. I thought maybe Phil was being cheap.
No,
and
no,
didn't
no.
want to do Uber, so I wasn't
No,
too sure.
you know
but-
what? A very good story is we actually, since the very beginning of the pandemic, actually before the pandemic, so the pandemic started in December. That started in China, right?
Right.
So by January, we were very much aware of what's going on already because both my cooks read Chinese news. So
Right.
we were already on edge. All of us were already on edge.
Right.
So as soon as somebody starts to cough in the restaurant, we were already like sanitizing, like Lysoling and bleaching every part that they have touched. And I remember in February, there was this family who just came off the plane. They were talking about it. I don't know where they came from, but the whole table was coughing like you would not believe. Like they looked like they were choking on something, the whole table, and they were coughing on the menu. They were coughing on the bills. We were like, I was watching them like a hawk, and I sat everybody around them and moved everybody that I could and did not sit anybody around them.
Close
And
to
as
them,
soon as
yeah.
they left, we bleached the whole place. We bleached the whole place and we started washing all the menus since that day. Every
Hard.
night
It's a
we
hard
started
time.
like
Wipe
scrubbing
down
the
the
menu.
menu.
We have a
Wow.
table for just the dirty menus that we've given to people, not even dirty, that people that use the menu or touch the menu. We already were doing that, and we shut down before the government even asked us to shut down. We shut down the restaurant for 2.5 weeks, and that was not a party. We were anxious. We didn't know how to go forward. We just did not feel safe because our takeout window was just but a window.
Right.
So we thought like, how are we going to
We,
go
we were
forward?
not using the takeout window before.
Yes.
Prior to COVID,
It was coming in.
it was
But
just
strictly
it's
dine
just
in,
there.
Yes,
period.
and,
Yeah.
Yes.
In fact, it was blocked off with boxes.
and then we
Right.
tried to use the takeout window, but even that was not safe because the exhaust of the restaurant pulls out the clean air from outside.
Right.
So if there was like molecules,
Right.
there will be like exhaust would pull them in, and then that would infect us. So we were wondering like, okay, this might not be a good idea. So we had to shut down and think about what to do. And even the two cooks were like, oh, if you're gonna keep doing the takeout window, we are not feeling safe. We have elders living with us. We don't want to get them sick. So we were all uncertain how to go forward. We shut down for 2.5 weeks, and then we thought, okay, let's get somebody to come and put a plexiglass so we could slide that in and protect ourselves, so we could slide it out when we're giving the boxes away. So we got that installed, and okay, next week, okay, we're back. And then since we came back, we were like insanely busy, like
Yeah.
we've never been busy before. And we had no staff because we had to let our elder staff go home because we didn't want to put her in a position where she might get sick. And then the young kids, we were not sure if they were gallivanting somewhere else. We
Right.
were not sure if they were going to school. So the kids that have been with us for so long has been like family, but she was anxious to come to work and we were anxious for her to come to work. So it turned out well. And then so we had both Megan and Mika at home and like, okay, everybody, all hands on deck. And Megan's boyfriend too, everybody, all hands on deck. We were answering the phones like you would not believe. Like
Yeah, that was crazy time.
everything was like, 1 sec, I'm still with another customer. 1 sec, I'm still with another customer. I'm sorry. And then people were getting mad because they can't get through. We had to put all the phone calls through another phone. It was insane. And the boys were just,
They're just wondering what's going on.
I don't know if they were grateful. I don't know if they were mad. They were not happy, but to a point we were just like, what is going on? Because a lot of their friends were like being fired left and right. Their cooks, their friends who were cooks too.
Right.
They were fired left and right, or the restaurant
The
has shut
restaurant has
down
closed down. Yeah.
because it's a different setup. Because we always had like maybe 50%, 60% dine-in and takeout. It really depends on the day. It's almost even. So I guess because people can't dine in, people just took out, right? So we were insane. We were so insane to the point didn't even know what to do. And so we were grateful about that, but we were dead tired. Every day we had to come and wrap dumplings because now we had to do it on our own because my aunt's not being able to come. And Glenson and I were like wrapping dumplings, wrapping spring rolls, like doing wontons. Like that was during the day. And in the afternoon, we have to wash all the bins. We have to wash all the metal containers because the cooks can't get to it because we're cutting vegetables all day, all night. So even if we were open for dinner only, we were busy.
yeah,
But
we were
once
busy.
it hits 4 o'clock or 5 o'clock, and at 6 o'clock, you can't even go to the
Yeah.
washroom. Nobody goes to the washroom. Nobody drink water. Everybody run.
Hold it in.
Like we were running back and
That's
forth.
crazy.
It was
That's
insane.
amazing.
That's
It was
awesome.
Amazing,
insane,
but
and we're
crazy.
grateful.
Yeah.
So now we'll see how it goes. We're thinking like, we are going to keep the takeout the way it is until we have to figure out something else. And then we're taking only a few dine-ins at a time.
Right.
So this is how we are, every day we just like make a decision today for tomorrow. We are not thinking about next week. We just get so overwhelmed and anxious when we think about tomorrow. So one day at a time.
And
That has
made
been
it-
our motto since last
Yeah.
year.
You made it through the worst of it. So I mean,
Mhm. And even
should-
like supply chain, I heard you talking about it, and that's one of
yeah,
the biggest
geez,
things.
it's
At one
crazy.
point, we had no containers.
Yeah.
like, Oh, we are doing takeout, but we don't have
take out
containers.
boxes.
Like we
We
were
had to
down,
scramble for it.
we were down
Yeah.
to our last stack, and we were like wondering if somebody calls, should we tell them to bring their own containers because where are we gonna put the food into? And we had to hoard, but the supplier would like, no, you're only allowed this much. And even oil, you're only allowed this much. And my old cook was telling me at one point they had no soy sauce. They could not cook anything. They had no soy sauce. We're not soy sauce heavy, so we didn't have that problem. But he was working for this other restaurant, and he said the boss had to go to Sobeys, No Frills, and get like
Just
little
to-
bottles of soy sauce to use because they could not get the big soy sauce from the supplier or from the manufacturers. And it was just to a point where even hot sauce, ketchup was a problem. So going forward, that would be our challenge. We try to go green and try to like get paper boxes for a takeout. We have an Instagram post about that. We're trying to go green. Wonderful. Yay. We had that for a month and then done. We can't continue to do it because there's no more supply. And now it's like, there's absolutely nowhere to get it.
Right.
So we're back to the black microwavable boxes. And I don't know what to say. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm happy
There's
that
nothing you can do. It is what it is, right?
Yeah, it is what it is, right?
I mean, until it
Yeah.
cleans up, until the supply chain sort of catches
Yeah.
up. That's
Yeah, like
how
right
it
now.
works,
Might be
though.
another year though,
I mean, who knows?
easily. Yeah.
Who knows?
yes. So if people have
knows?
written Tupperware and glass lock and lock,
Well, see, we weren't allowed to bring in stuff from home in BC. That's one thing we couldn't do.
oh well, that's one
Right.
thing. I
So
did
we
not
used
think
to
about
have
that.
but we weren't, like we wouldn't, you couldn't even bring your coffee cup. You know how
Yes, yes.
pre-pandemic, you bring
Yeah.
it in, you probably got 10 cents
Mhm,
off
mhm.
coffee because
Yeah.
they stopped all
Yeah.
that because nobody wanted to touch someone else's.
Yeah,
stuff,
that's
right?
true.
So,
Yeah,
but,
and then
but your world's back to quasi. So you're closed 2 days a week now.
yes,
So
Sunday,
and
Mondays.
That's not going to change, you hope, because well, it doesn't have to.
We're
It's up to
hoping.
you.
I'm confident we can do this.
It's up to you. I mean,
Train
people
the
get used to
right?
it, right? Your
Yeah,
customers will
people
get
got
used to it.
trained.
Yeah.
They're not open on Monday, so we go on Tuesday.
And you're 4 to 10, back to the old school 4 to 10. You're
No,
not doing-
actually,
Actually,
no.
open now from
12 to
Oh,
8:30.
so
We
you are
just
doing
need to
lunch
make it up
meetings.
somehow because the boys need the money for, the
Yeah,
boys need
that's
to eat
fine.
too, right? So we thought like we're already here, might as well stay another,
Right. Well, and
that was the biggest challenge too, right? Trying to keep them employed during the pandemic and
For
trying
sure.
to make sure they have enough hours
for sure.
because we were at like 4 o'clock to 8 and the CRB helped them a lot, thank God. But now that the CRB is gone, we have
Now
to
you gotta
make
increase the
ways to
hours.
make sure that they can, they can survive too, right?
Right.
So we're good in that sense, but if people don't come back on Monday and we don't open on Monday, and that's okay, it's okay, so long as we can pay rent, we're very happy about that.
I would try to
Mm.
stay closed as long as I could. Take the 2 days.
Yes, I mean,
Seriously, why
deserve
why
it.
go back? Just take
Yeah.
it off. When
Yeah,
you've
you
done
deserve
enough
it.
years
Yeah.
of it, just
yeah,
take it
sitting in
off.
the garden on a beautiful day is
Absolutely.
wow, priceless.
And 2 days in a row is a lovely thing.
But it's
Yes,
a different
yes.
mentality
It is.
too, right? Like 20 years ago, you could never go out of stock on an ingredient. You could never if you had a dish on your menu, you had to have it all the time. Otherwise, people thought, "Oh, are you guys incompetent?" But now
Right.
Yes.
it's the opposite, right? Now it's like I only have 100 of that item, and if you ran out, sorry, you got to come back next time, right? And so I feel like the closed thing is just a conditioning thing because people who love your restaurant will just
They're
realize
not going to care.
"Ah, come back later,
Yes,
They're
right?
not gonna
Like
care. So
I
yeah,
really
Tuesday to
do think it's
Saturday,
a
big deal.
mentality shift that way, right? Like
Yeah, it's not
Yes,
a big deal.
yes.
That's true.
yeah,
and we have come to the point where another thing the pandemic taught us is like, the people who mind don't matter, and the people who matter really don't mind. And that really has been so true to many things that we've done in our lives. And
Total.
we can't please everybody, and we really have never
No.
been here to be pleasing everybody. We're just trying to put food on the table. We're not trying to
Yeah.
do anything outrageously awesome and change the world with our food. We're just really trying to
be
live.
clear,
We're just
the
working.
food is awesome.
Thank you,
So
Phil.
if-
Thank you,
if
Phil.
anyone's
Thank you.
listening, like calamari is high on our list of things that we love there.
Yes.
I
The
don't know what
chabi
the chabi hun is high on our list. It's like a glass noodle
Comfort
dish,
food
Kenny.
for you.
I'm so
Oh my
hungry.
gosh, it's so good. There's so
I'm so
many
hungry.
things
Like
on
Phil
there
and I could
that are
eat.
just
Phil and I
like-
could eat all day. Like I just.
Hey, if you come
I-
by Oakville one day, you can come.
Yeah. You should-
I'll give you some of Phil's favorites.
Oh, I'll be there.
Yeah.
I'll be there with
But
him.
listen, if you go out to Vancouver to see Mika, Kenny, wherever they're going to eat, just follow them.
Oh,
I swear to you, like maybe
Oh.
these two are the only two people I know that love food more than we do. Like Kenny and I, all we do, like Kathy and I talk about food all the time. Kenny and I talk about food all the time. But you two are like,
We eat food all the
Yeah.
time.
yeah.
It's all
You,
good.
you know what? Next time you're with Megan, just ask her
Yeah.
about what she
Yeah,
loves.
Megan,
and
ask
then,
Megan.
yeah.
Megan calls me
You get a
weak
few.
now because I don't want to try new things. And she's like, "Oh my God, who are you? Why are you so weak? Why don't you want to try this restaurant?" oh, like, oh, and why can't you eat that much anymore? You're so weak. We need to order 5 dishes among the 3 of us so we can try everything. And I can't eat anymore. I'm like, oh my God, you're so disappointing. I was like,
Oh my
I'm
God.
sorry, I'm disappointing you, but my metabolism
Pardon
is
me.
20 years old anymore.
Jeez. The pressure the
I
kids
love
give
it.
you, eh?
I love it.
Yes, oh, you have no
Oh
idea.
my God.
And it
That's
always has
awesome.
to be the most expensive thing on the menu. I'm like, Megan has never been cheap. Never. Never seen a kid's menu ever. She's always for
No.
the lobster and the steak.
Atta girl.
Immediately.
You trained her right.
Thank God she
That's how
works
you do
hard.
it. That's how you do it.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Thank you for coming on the show.
Well, thank you.
Was
Thanks so
that
much for
was
having
that
us.
weird? Wasn't too
Weird.
weird, right?
Yes, it was
Wasn't
weird.
Oh yeah.
It was weird. It was like talking to you about things.
I think it's more weird because it's on over Zoom and we've never done it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
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 It's not like you're talking to a
Yeah.
person face to face.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but I
exactly,
guess, you know,
yeah.
it is the truth. I mean, there's really not anything different I would tell another person in the restaurant.
Yeah.
It is the truth. And this is us, you know, we've always been, if nothing, we were always authentic and true to ourselves. We've always just, you know, just really tried to do the best that we can and put food on the table is really what our purpose
Yeah.
was.
Yeah.
And it just turned out to be this. And we are grateful for all the things that it came with.
That's very cool.
It's amazing. It's
Very
amazing.
cool.
Thank you for coming on.
Thank you.
Thank
for
you. It was
having
very
us.
nice meeting you guys.
Nice meeting you, Kenny.
Likewise.
Thank you as
Okay.
well.
Come see us.
Trust me, the next time I'm in Ontario, I'm
Yes.
coming. We'll
All right.
100% be there.
Looking
All
forward
right.
to that.
Looking forward to
Me
that.
too.
Okay.
Take care,
Awesome.
guys.
All right.
Bye,
Take
Glenson.
care.
Bye.
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 Phil, you gonna shut it
Yeah,
down? You
yeah.
guys can-
I'm gonna.
Yeah, you guys can go if you want.
You
Just
guys can
click-
go. We're
just
gonna
click
wrap
leave.
up
Okay.
here, but yeah,
That's
yeah, yeah.
it.
Do you know how to end the call?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, got it.
Just hit the leave button on the bottom right. There you go.
There you go.
Wonderful people.
How cool are they?
They're wonderful. It's
Yeah.
it's just I mean, we didn't get a chance to talk, but you know, I'm finding funny is that, you know, well, we don't know what we're doing. We don't know what we're doing. So we went around the neighborhood and gave everybody knocked on doors. I'm thinking, what do you mean you don't know what you're doing? You did all your
Yeah,
own
you
marketing.
did exactly. You did
My God,
exactly.
you did
yeah.
more than most do.
Yeah.
Most just open
Yeah.
and wait.
Yeah.
You went around the neighborhood, asked questions, listened to
Yeah.
feedback to some degree, because she did say there was
Yeah.
things that they wouldn't do,
Yeah.
which is what they should do.
Yeah.
But I'm thinking, holy shit, man.
Yeah.
Because most would just come and they just,
Yeah.
if they asked people, they'd start to listening.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, Bill obviously scared the hell out of him,
Yeah.
but probably did him a lot of good too, because you can tell they
Yeah.
listened to some of it.
I mean, Bill, like it just for anyone who knows Bill, right? So Bill passed, I think, last year or 2 years ago, maybe a little bit more. But he, like, at the time, it was right around the time, you know, like he did something for restaurateurs when restaurateurs didn't have anything,
Right.
right? Like when the Chinese were here and they just didn't, you know, he had an accent, but he was fairly fluent in English, right? Like he had lots of advantages that most cooks didn't have when they
Right.
came here. So it was, but by the time he had got to them, it was just, you know, it was that turning point, right? So it was the, you know, old meets new, and he was like, this is not a classic menu, and they're like, because we're not classic people. You know,
But he also
yeah,
probably told them fundamentals. Your pricing's wrong. This is how you do it.
yeah,
This is
yeah.
how much you need to charge. Like
Yeah,
to teach
yeah.
them,
yeah,
because I mean, if you listen to the two of them, really, I mean, yes, they had a restaurant in the Philippines, the dads, but it sounded like franchise was all set.
yeah,
Now you're coming and having to do your own thing, set your
Yeah.
own menu, your own pricing.
Yeah.
I mean, how do you do it? You
Yeah.
never had to do it before. The other
No.
way, someone did it for you.
yeah.
So it's a whole
Yeah.
different process, right?
Yeah.
But I hope they stay with their Mondays, Sunday, Monday close too.
Anyway, I love them, and I'm
Wonderful
so
people.
glad to get them on.
Yeah, it's very cool.
I wanted to get them on, but like during the pandemic, I mean, you heard them, right? They were just so busy that it wasn't right. So I was appreciative that they could come
No,
on.
all cool. That was really good.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
Nice people.
Awesome. That's it, man.
That's it,
Sunday
buddy boy.
morning. Sunday
Ugh.
morning recording. Kenny's yawning over there.
Well, you know, it's
I'll
funny
let you go
because-
back to bed maybe, or
Well, I
thanks
know,
for doing
so
this on Sunday
I watch
morning.
football. Oh God, it's not my pleasure.
Yeah.
No, it's funny because
Yeah.
I woke up and I'm thinking, I'm supposed to do something today. But I'm thinking, I don't remember that. And then I look at my clock and think 7:46,
Yeah.
7:40. Oh my God, 8 o'clock. I gotta be on.
Yeah. I'll
Yeah,
talk to them too, because they are very social media shy, like the two of them. So I don't know if they want pictures on or whether we'll put up a Celadon
It's up to them.
Anyway, I'll ask them about.
I wish they would do it, because I think if
Yeah.
anything, I think, there's a lot of people that would go to them. They're wonderful. They
Yeah.
sound like wonderful people.
Yeah,
They're
they
doing a good
really
thing,
are,
so.
and like it's
Yeah.
such a wonderful restaurant. So
Right. It's just
such a
always the same.
delight.
It's
Yeah.
any of the immigrant stories are just cool, right? Because it's nice to hear people come here and they
Yeah.
enjoy it. They love the country.
Yeah,
And it's back to the old work hard and you can
Yeah.
do well. It's all those, I don't know.
Yeah.
I like that stuff. That's just,
oh come on, look at these two, right?
I mean, I
They
think
didn't
it's
know anything
fantastic.
when they got here. It's amazing. Look at
Seriously.
where they are now, right? Like it's amazing.
Yeah, I think it's
Anyway.
fantastic.
Anyway, all right, young man.
Okay, buddy.
You
Well,
have a wonderful day.
thank you. You too. We'll
Yeah.
chat with you tomorrow.
Yeah, tomorrow. Okay. Ciao,
Okay.
man.
Ciao, Chang.
Okay, bye.